Federal government receives National Savings Scheme report to work with Security Exchange Commission and others on implementation. Nigeria to spend 3.53 trillion naira on infrastructure, human capital development, says Finance Minister. Government to partner South Korea in tackling unemployment in Nigeria. Shares in Asia Pacific edged higher in Wednesday morning trade. The program is Business Express, reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I am Benny Adams, your guide. Good to have you join us at a time we talk business. The achievement of the federal government in infrastructure development in the country was brought to the fore at a town hall meeting for Nigerians to appreciate how the present administration under President Muhammadu Buhari has fared.
You all agree with me that what we hear is that this government is borrowing. I think today you've heard not only what the government is doing with borrowing, but also the impact of the borrowing on our people. In other words, we borrow to provide roads, to provide power, to provide bridges, to provide airports, provide water and transportation. And of course, when we do that, people are happier, the economy grows, and more people are employed.
And the federal government says it would also spend a total of 3.53 trillion naira on infrastructure and human capital development in 2022. The Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, stated this during a town hall meeting organized by the Ministry of Information and Culture on the achievements of the federal government in infrastructure.
Infrastructures that have been funded by external loans include the Zungeru hydropower plant project, which was a loan of $984 million, the Lagos-Ibadan railway project at $1.26 billion, the upgrading and rehabilitation of the Kefi-Akwanga Lafia Road project at $460 million, the supply of rolling stock and depot equipment for the Abuja Light Rail project phase 1, $164 million, the NICTIP project, this is an infrastructure, ICT infrastructure backbone, the Galaxy backbone, in the sum of $328 million. We have also the 4 airport terminal expansion projects, phase 2, in the sum of $208.91 million, ancillary works for the same 4 airports, in the sum of $183.62 million. These are all ongoing projects.
The mobilization of domestic savings for capital formation and investment is a critical success factor for harnessing the true growth potential of the Nigerian economy. This position was made known by the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, during the submission of the Working Group report on National Savings Scheme in Abuja. Bosere Abel reports.
Government is working with other stakeholders towards achieving the Medium-Term National Development Plan 2021-2025. The plan recognizes the role of a deep financial market in supporting high and sustainable economic growth. The Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, while receiving a report by the National Savings Strategy, said it will guide government in taking actionable steps to actualize the objective framework as it works with the Securities and Exchange Commission, other agencies and stakeholders to ensure full realization of the scheme.
The just launched new medium-term national development plan recognizes the role a deep financial market must play in supporting the high and sustainable growth plans that we aim to achieve.
This will no doubt increase investors' confidence, improve the depth and breadth of the market in terms of product offerings, engender market integrity, and contribute to the country's economic growth.
The presentation of the report by the National Savings Strategy Working Group on the proposed National Savings Scheme, which was inaugurated in 2020, seeks to drive capital formation and investment necessary to support entrepreneurs and enterprise development for economic diversification, as well as deepen the capital market participation.
The growth of any economy depends on the level of capital accumulation. Capital accumulation, in turn, depends primarily on savings and investment.
The group further noted that savings is one of the fundamentals of highly developed economies and pledged its readiness to help drive growth of the economy.
And now to the business of the day. As the federal government received the National Savings Scheme report from the working group with a pledge to work with stakeholders in implementing the recommendations, what should or can be done for its effective implementation? To tell us more on this is a global economic consultant. He's no other person but Professor Ken Ife. Prof, you're welcome to Business Express.
Thank you for having me.
Good to see you here again.
Thank you.
Well, Prof, a lot of initiatives, a lot of innovations have been brought to bear for the country to recover from the effects of the COVID-19. The government is not been sleeping about this, and you've been a key stakeholder in participation in bringing some of the solutions to bear. Now we are talking about the National Savings Scheme. Can you tell us what this scheme is all about, its set objectives as captured in the document?
Very interesting scheme, and I'm a member of that national working group.
Okay.
What it is that investment is fundamental to growth in any economy.
Sure.
And investment has to start with your savings. What have you got? And if you go to a bank, you say, what are you bringing on the table? So you're going to ask the same question to the government. Where is our savings? We're very, very low as a country compared to our peers in national savings. We just don't have it. And when you don't have it, what do? You go out borrowing. And you know, in many cases, who goes out borrowing?
That's talking about our reserves.
Goes out borrowing, yeah.
Okay.
So the thing is, the National Savings Scheme is just one good way of raising that big sum accessible to development purposes. And one example similar is like PENCOM. PENCOM is a model that we actually looked at very well and wanted to mirror. So it is about getting our population to begin to save, not just the citizens, but also the corporate citizens. But in our report, we said, let's hold back a bit on the corporate savings schemes. We'll come back to it a little bit later. Let's push on with the individual savings schemes, because that is easier to manage, and we wanted it to be as flexible as possible, and then to be incentivized by fiscal measures so that it can work. We suggested an age of between 20 to 50, 21 years to 50, and then to go in at between 2 years to 5 years. And bear in mind that we expect it to be taxed, deductible, so which means your tax is waived. But it can be waived only to the extent that the minimum number of years the tax authorities agree is what is going to go. But you can withdraw earlier, but when you withdraw earlier, you forfeit that tax rebate that you have.
Well, it's so interesting that this thing, aside the corporate savings, you're concentrating on individuals, and you have an age range between 18 and 50.
21 and 50.
21 and 50. A whole
But
lot
you
of
can do
Nigerians.
after 50, but voluntary.
It's voluntary.
But we want it to be compulsory for those who are working, but we don't want it to be compulsory for the...
Okay, because I was actually
yeah,
supposed to ask. It must be
for the
those who are
informal sector.
working.
Informal sector will come in voluntarily, at least for now.
Okay, these savings will be in commercial banks. Are there special
those will
accounts, or is your individual account, or
Yeah,
there's a central pause
there will be
and
instruments.
incentives? There will be
There will be instruments that will be developed under the supervision of Security and Exchange Commission. We domiciled it with the Security and Exchange Commission, although we're going to have an independent board, call it trustees of some sort, that is actually going to be responsible in making some critical decisions about where you domicile, where you place some of those. So, but these products will be designed and under the supervision of SEC, because SEC looks after the capital market, and that's the easiest way to get this up and running. And then we'll have an independent, well, just like PENCOM. PENCOM has board of trustees that ensure that you don't run down that money with any recklessness.
So now, let's say a public servant, a civil servant, okay, you'll be saving, okay, there's a tax deduction for you from source, there's a PENCOM deduction from source. Will this also come from source? Or like you said, is it voluntary for one to say, okay, I want to say a particular percentage from my monthly earnings, I'm going to save it for this particular purpose?
Correct.
And at the end of the day, when we have this accumulated sum, what sort of investments are we looking out for?
Now, the thing is that you will decide the level of commitment you want. If you want how much, we have a minimum of 6,000 naira, and then we have a maximum of 6 million in a year. So you have a broad band. So but what for advantage to you is that that money you are saying, please put it away from me in the savings scheme, the tax you would have paid, you won't pay that because that's why the incentive. So that already means you've already started making profit even before the money hits the road. So that's how it starts. And then there will be different instruments that will be designed for the savings schemes itself. Then there are sectors that whoever runs the board or the show will decide which sector, what percentage of this money should go to infrastructure and what percentage can go to agriculture or to this, so that's, and there will be guarantees.
This is an investment. Yes, there are guarantees. This is an investment. What's the possible return on investment at the end of the day?
Well, it depends on the sector. It depends on what you are involved. Government can come and borrow, just as government went to a pension fund and took lots of money from them. But when government takes, it's cast iron guarantees, 100%. They're going to get it back. It's not going anywhere.
Sure.
So you have that call on the resources. But we will be saying, no, we can only do 40% maximum on infrastructure, at least no more than 20% on agriculture. We'll be doing that, saying this is how we want to see the money go to help economic development.
The tax incentive is a very good one. Any other incentives to encourage this?
So the flexibility means that if you come under enormous pressure financially, you can say, look, I need half of my money back. And if you have not met the qualifying year, you have it, but they will just deduct the tax that they have already. But if you have met the thing, no problem. You can have whatever you want to have out, in and out, so that you can. And then there may be other products, like you may have housing schemes that will say people who are on this scheme can have preferential
benefit
from their housing programs.
Oh,
so many other things that can come. You have insurance products that will come, and then you have so many things, sweeteners, that because they're looking at that money and they're looking for patronage, they want to work with it. It's a big pot. It's going to be a very big pot.
This is a big pot, and it's really sounding very enticing. How ready is this committee? We usually have very beautiful policies like this. When it comes to implementation, it might just be a challenge. Are there strategies being put in place? I heard the Minister of Finance, they're making commitments to the recommendations, more like implementation. How committed? It's a public-private sector thing.
Yes, but I think you need to see the forerunner. The forerunner is the PENCOM.
Okay.
Today, Pencom is over 12 trillion and is building, and you can see how safe it is. And then you have CC government coming in to borrow from there with cast iron guarantee. And so there's something that you can say, oh, if we can run along the same line with corporate governance and also with, so then there's hope. It's not something that will be thrown to the wind and you're wondering who took this decision, where's our money? You can have that because you're going to have a board of trustees guarding that money with their life.
Well, let me take you a little bit off the fund now, talking about the national scheme. Let's look at, the SEC is involved in this. And when we talk about the SEC, we're talking about the capital market. If such investments get into the capital market, with the demutualization, we've seen the reforms that have been ongoing and fintechs coming and a lot of regulations, would that be a very good, veritable tool to invest in? And what do you see in the future of the stocks going forward in this year?
No, for example, the ICT sector is taking off in our country, and you could see some of the tech hubs being the biggest in Africa. We have the highest number of hubs in Africa, and we have the highest number of over $200 million every year coming in as seed funds. So that is good news. So I wouldn't be surprised if we prioritize, and young people are there. I wouldn't be surprised if we prioritize a lot of lending to that sector. Those are some of the decisions that will be taken.
Looking at
and products that will be designed and developed for those purposes.
Okay, looking at this sustained GDP growth we are beginning to achieve, which is beyond the projections of the IMF and the World Bank, are we seeing this being sustained despite inflationary figures that come up and high costs of food items? Do we see progression in all of this?
I think there's progress. In fact, the GDP figures confounded everybody. I thought it was going to be about 2-3%, but I didn't know it was going to end up at 3.4. And the last quarter was 3.95. I was surprised. And then if you now look at disaggregate the data and go down, you see that non-oil sector has so severely overtaken the oil. It's about 95%.
Is that to say the diversification agenda of the non-oil sector is working?
Yeah, it is. We are giving less credit. We are not actually giving enough credit to the level of diversification of our economy taking place. Because oil has now come down to 5.2%. From a peak of 10% to 5.2%. And if you look at the budget for 2022, government is looking that the contribution of oil to their revenue might actually start going down to 35%. Very, very low. Now, what that means is that economy is getting more resilient, which means that if we have those exogenous shocks on the oil that could bring it down to half the revenue, it's not going to drag us into recession anymore. That's what it means. But of course, we know that the predictions are over the next 3 years, oil price will be on the roof for the next 3 years.
Let's look at individual spendings now. The transport sector was one sector that contributed to this growth that we saw in the 29%. GDP. 29%. But now we are hearing 100% increase. Not hearing is a fact. Talking about the airfares. And it's a transport infrastructure that it's very important to Nigerians. People move for businesses to take place, for exchanges and everything. And the safest way to travel is by air. The roads, yes, federal government is doing a whole lot on the roads, but yet we are not yet there. How do you see this affecting the economics of spending on the individual?
That's very interesting, actually, that you raised that. Our aviation sector has posted over 60% growth, recovery from pre-COVID. Globally, is about 40%. We're doing well. And then I know I spoke to the management of the aviation sector, and I was looking at the elasticity of demand and found that, even though the costs are going high and higher and higher, the demand far outstrips the supply of travelers. So, they won't dent their figure. This doubling of fare will not touch the number because more people are going in and we don't have alternatives for now. But I've been also looking at the possibility of setting up an aviation bank to help ease the pressure and bring resources for them to hire more jets and all sorts of things. We're looking at so many other areas, and the ecosystem needs investment to develop.
Investment
That's right.
is the key word.
Yeah.
Yes, there has been the issue of concession of 4 airports.
Absolutely,
And all of that investments coming, and infrastructure is still a key thing. Is government doing enough?
And then the competition from Africa, the opening up of the African airspace is something that you cannot ignore. We can't compete the way things are with Nigeria.
Thank you so very much, Professor Kenife, for sharing your thoughts with us at this particular point in time.
Thank you.
It's always a pleasure having you.
And you too. Thanks.
You're welcome. Moving on, the Senate has expressed concern over what it called the astronomical increase in airfare in Nigeria, urging the federal government to do more on roads rehabilitation and construction. The decision follows adoption of a motion moved as a matter of urgent national importance at Tuesday's plenary.
On the federal government to immediately make good its indebtedness to FEMA in order to enable the agency carry out its primary responsibility of rehabilitating federal roads.
The House of Representatives is working on legislations that will improve the welfare of retirees and strengthen the National Pension Commission. This was contained in a message by the Speaker, House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, at a one-day public hearing on 2 bills before the House Committee on Pension.
Bills we are here to deliberate upon today will effect the needed critical interventions to improve the welfare of our retirees and enhance the pension industry.
Whatever position the committee will adopt, be assured that this National Assembly will always have the interests of its people at heart.
People should be allowed to withdraw up to 75% of their lump sum.
Because the government has seen that they don't have to exit a successful scheme, that is why it has continuously rejected to approve.
Currency markets paused for breath on Wednesday after a choppy few sessions as whipsawed markets looked to get handle on the latest developments in Eastern Europe amid a deepening crisis in Ukraine. How much is the Naira exchanging for other currencies? Let's take a look. Let's now take a trip to the commodities market. And now the capital market at the close of Wednesday trading, the all share index closed at 47,207.27 basis points. Market capitalization appreciated to 25.4 trillion naira. 230.6 million shares valued at 3.4 billion naira were traded in 4,377 deals. And on the global market, shares in Asia Pacific edged higher in Wednesday morning trade. Details with Bosede Ebo.
Hello, this is Global Markets Update. Now, Russia and Ukraine crisis have continued to set the tone for global markets. European stocks moved higher on Wednesday as investors digested a strong round of corporate earnings while continuing to monitor the latest developments in the Russia-Ukraine crisis. DAX was 1.3% higher, CAC 40 1.3% and FTSE 0.71%. In Asia, mainland Chinese stocks closed higher, with the Shanghai Composite gaining 0.93% across 3,489.15. The Hang Seng Index also rose 0.60% across 23,660.28, while markets in Japan were closed for a public holiday. U.S. stock market futures were higher in early morning trading Wednesday after the S&P 500 closed in correction territory amid escalating tensions between Russia and Ukraine. Futures contracts tied to the Dow Jones Industrial Average advanced 261 points, the S&P 500 0.93%, and the Nasdaq Composite also topped 1.31%. African markets haven't performed too well this week due to the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, which has been the major factor affecting global markets. However, Namibia's overall index rose mildly at 0.05% across 1,732.57. That's the Global Market Review. I am Boss Sede Abel.
Thank you, Bosede. And the Business Express returns Thursday by 9:30 a.m. I am Benny Adams saying, stay safe.